This video is for anybody who's either looking for a job, who wants to have a better time at work, designing their own life and want to have a better time with their own life and their own schedule and figuring that out. People in general, if you feel stuck at work and you're in a rut, you can't create, you're totally blocked, this video is going to be for you. So it's helping you figure out different ways of doing things to get your brain going again, to relax your body, to feel better, to move better, to improve your quality of life. Hi everybody, I'm Celeste and this is the Evermind channel. Today's video is going to be on rest and play. And I picked that because one, rest and play can lead to more productivity, more contentment, and overall a more relaxed state. When you're more relaxed and you're more content and you're already producing more, those three things continue to cycle and take care of themselves, you actually will make better decisions in your life. As an example, think of the addict personality, okay? So the addict is someone who has to have it now. They have to get their fix now, whatever their fix may be. They're super impulsive. They have to have it all right now. They usually don't make great life decisions. They just don't. Then you think of the monk, right? The monk who is never rushed to make a decision. Now realistically, is anybody here watching this attempting to be a monk? I don't know. Probably not. I'm going to assume you don't want to do that. To each his own. But we're going to meet somewhere in the middle. So taking more of an essentialism type of mentality, in the book Essentialism, which I also highly recommend. In Essentialism, there is the train of thought of if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. That type of thinking is more readily available when a person is relaxed, content, productive, okay with everything as it is. It's a lot easier to make better life decisions, better work decisions, better family decisions, better relationship decisions, better health decisions, all the way around when you have those things. Most people, in my experience living in the US, are overworked and they're really stressed. So my intention with today's video is to help open up your mind by educating you on different things and letting you explore that making less time for stress and more time for rest and play can actually be of phenomenal benefit to you and your life and your work life and your personal life and your relationship life and your family life, all of it. The Jim Jeffries show, he does a little bit on Americans, on the US, and how our work week, our work life is pretty skewed, and I must say that I highly agree with the man. As an example, one of the things he does talk about is compared to Germany. As an example, Germany gives an 8-week paid time off that most of us in the US do not get. That's pretty much unheard of. Even just 4 weeks is pretty much unheard of. 2 weeks if you're lucky, and it depends. In some companies, I've worked for plenty of companies that you have to work a full year before you get any vacation time, which I personally think is bullshit. If you're doing a great job, it's important to have play and have fun, okay? Now, all this being said, I realize that some of you watching don't have the luxury of working for yourself, making your own hours, making your own schedule. You have to do what your boss tells you to do, what your company tells you to do, all of that good stuff. And I'm all for doing what you gotta do. I completely get that. So part of what I'm also going to talk about in this video is ways that you might start thinking and retraining your brain on how to make more play at work in some fashion. And if you're not making more play at work, at least figuring out a way to have more fun when you're off of work. Just a little bit. And I'm talking if you're one of those people that the concept of play or rest is insane to you because you're going to get so far behind compared to everybody else who's working and working and working and working, then I recommend just starting with like 15 minutes for reals, a 15-minute break. Set a timer and then do one of the activities that I'll mention in here for 15 minutes, something fun. So one thing in Japan, as an example, I know the US is not the only culture, the only country that has a work problem where we're overworked or we're stressed out or we're constantly trying to keep up or do better than everybody else. Over in Japan, they have something called karoshi. It's translated as literally overworked death in Japanese. They have culture, they have groups, like we have suicide groups here raising awareness. They have groups over there raising awareness for this karoshi because people are literally dying at work because they are so overworked. And just a reminder, remember to subscribe, click down below, do the thing. I've been reading a book, it's called Rest. Let's see if you can get it, yeah? Rest. I hope that kind of comes in alright. I'll put it down below. I hope I'm not going to totally botch this name up. Rest is by Alex Soojung-kim. It'll all be spelled below. I do wholeheartedly apologize if I messed that up. But one thing that I thought was really interesting, I got to a part about Charles Darwin, which I'm hoping everybody watching this knows who that is. And if you don't, please look him up before you continue on because you need to know who that person is. Charles Darwin actually just worked on a daily basis. I mean, I'm sure there were other times that it changed and fluctuated. He worked 3 90-minute sessions a day. And that was it. The rest of the time, he took about 3 walks a day. He ate 3 meals a day. He spent time with his family. He wrote letters because that's what you did back then. And, some other admin type stuff. And that was about it. That's what he did every day. And he wrote 19 books. On top of that, he wrote one of the most famous books in the history of science, The Origin of Species. Alex goes on about a lot of different people throughout history and their work ethic, their work schedule, and how often they took a break. And it was much more often than you'd think, and it's certainly much more often than the average American. So rest basically has 4 characteristics, if you will. So work and rest are partners. Rest is active. Rest is a skill. And I can attest to that, just so we're clear, because I've been fortunate enough to now get the chance in my life to start to define my own schedule. And this is another reason why I've done this video, because this is also near and dear to my heart. I'm having to realize that it's okay to take a break. Really, it's okay. So the fact that it's a skill and understanding how to basically ebb and flow in your life it's a skill. Deliberate rest stimulates and sustains creativity. So he gives some examples about, a lot of some of the greatest minds were actually wonderful athletes. They did a lot of different kind of activities to keep their body functioning so that their brain could function. Those are just some examples. The idea of rest is, rather than try to get it all done right now before you're 30 something and be a millionaire or multimillionaire before then, the idea is that we do actually have time to take our time, rest, have a quality life, and continue to build and become really great. We don't have to have it all done before we're 30. Just because everybody else doesn't mean we have to. Maybe it'll be nice, and that's part of the challenge. What's his name? Gary V. I like some of his stuff, and at the same time, I'm not really a huge fan of the hustle thing. I know it works for a lot of people, and I'm all if it works for you, go for it. But I remember watching something on Instagram with Gary Vee. He was talking about when he was starting his company, helping his dad's company become whatever, $1 billion company. And he also was interested in the wine thing like he does now. But it wasn't always what it is currently for him in regards to his specialty in wine. So what he did is he would go to work and then he'd come home and he'd work till something like 7 a.m. on Twitter. He'd be on Twitter for 7 hours or whatever the hell it was. And then he'd go to, I don't know, he didn't really talk about what he did after, but it just occurred to me of, my God, when did he ever have time to do anything else? Like, that sounds like that's all he was doing. And I agree that it's a lot of work, but it makes me think, what do you really want your life to be? Do you want it to be quality, or do you want to just work really, really hard and then hopefully everything will work out and you don't burn out? But I think most people probably end up burning out or come down with really big health problems. Next, I want to talk about play. So what Alex talks about in Rest, which it's Claire, in Rest, is very similar but different to what Stuart Brown talks about with play. So this is also another book I recommend. Stuart Brown is the co-founder of the National Institute for Play. He has a TED Talk that you can also check out, and that will be below as well. A lot of this is it's on studies. A lot of them are studies on animals, because this is really one of the first times in history we've started to look at happy things, at play. Nobody has ever thought to study play, and by God, why would you put play into work? And yet, we're now coming into a generation and a culture where we're really sick and tired of working all the freaking time. So, Stuart Brown, in this, he does talk about a study that was done, and was done with mice. So there were 2 groups of mice. One group was allowed play. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not sure, but they were allowed play. Another group was not allowed play at all. Both groups of mice were introduced. There was a threat introduced into the environment. The group that played, eventually, they all scattered, right? Eventually, they came back out, though, to check out and see what was, if everything was safe again, and they could come back out. And eventually they came back out, and everything was fine. The group that was not allowed any kind of play scattered and never came back out. So one of the points that I think Stuart Brown does very gracefully in his book is point out that play helps us evolve as a species. When we play, eventually what happens is we try things. We try new things just for the hell of it. And it eventually pushes us through fun to learn and to grow and become better. So one of his whole points and purposes for writing the book is that he believes, through a lot of these studies and through watching what he's watched, that play actually evolves us as a species. So Stuart Brown's definition of play is an absorbing, apparently purposeless activity that provides enjoyment and a suspension of self-consciousness and sense of time. Play is self-motivating and makes you want to do it again. So it got me thinking a little bit about play for me. It was a conversation I had with a friend a couple weeks ago. I didn't think I was playing as much as I should be. I hadn't been going necessarily out on walks all the time, going on hikes. I love to be going snowboarding way more often than I have been. I haven't done a whole lot of mountain biking. Granted, it's winter. It got me thinking, this whole rest and play, and in my own life, figuring out what do I want my schedule to look like? What am I okay with doing and not doing? Is it okay that I'm not working all the freaking time? And I'm getting there. And it's getting better. And I'm realizing that the more that I do rest, the more inspired I get and the more things I am getting done. So I do want to also say that just because I'm resting or a person rests or plays or whatever, first off, rest, again, can be active, like Alex says in his book. It can be going for a walk, resting. It's resting your brain is really what I get a lot from that. So resting your brain, totally fine. Okay? What I'm finding is it is helping a lot more. I'm getting more done. I'm getting more important things done. When you don't rest or play or allow time for that, I realized that one thing that happens is you end up doing a lot of things that don't really matter. They don't really matter. So that goes back to the essentialism thing. Greg McKeown, I think is how you say his name, and hopefully I didn't botch that one up. Names are not my thing. It's just that I don't know what that is quite, and I haven't really worked on it, so bear with me. I can get you the information. I feel like that's really important. Greg McKeown, he wrote a really phenomenal book called Essentialism, and a lot of what I really get from all of this stuff is that the whole, it's a hell, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And when you sit and ask that question with the majority of the decisions you have to make every single day, maybe, if you're lucky, 5 of them are a hell yes. And even that is a lot, in my opinion. I mean, usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 things are going to be a hell yes, I am going to get this done today. It's probably more like 1. And yet, every single day, because of how stressed out and overworked most of us are, and we feel like we have to keep going and going and going and going and going, we've lost our creativity, we don't have solid priorities, and we're really just doing a lot of busy work that doesn't really matter. It just doesn't. So I would like to talk about some ways to start shifting into the playful mindset, okay? If it's available for you to do this at work, by all means, try it. Experiment with it. See if you like it. See if you don't. Give it more than 1 time. If you can go 2 weeks, go 2 weeks, okay? Do your best. Make it short if you're having a really hard time, like 10 minutes. Give yourself 10 minutes of doing this for 2 weeks, once a day. As an example, so when I was getting ready for this video, I wrote all my stuff down on note cards because that's a little more fun for me. And then I played around with it and figured out, okay, what do I want to talk about? How do I want to talk about it? I put it on the floor like a little kid. And I wrote on the floor and I laid on the floor and I used things that were fun for me. Even getting all, I got a little bit makeup on today because it was fun for me. I really enjoy this, whatever this is called. Toque? Is this like a toque or something? I don't even know what they're called because I don't do names real well with things, and this is what you got. I like this thing, so I put it on. I wanted to have fun doing this video and putting together things because that's the fucking point, right? So if you can, do your work on the floor. I mean, really, sitting isn't always the best thing anyway. We can get to that another time. Stand. Go juggle. I like to juggle, especially if I'm stressed out, because part of my brain hemispheres are going down, and that we will discuss in another video. When I notice that my creativity is done or blocked and I cannot think, it's time for me to get out, go for a walk, go do something that is not work, because it is not going to get any better if I keep trying to force it. Do things like a little kid. Put some sort of little kid type things in your office. Put them in your room at home if you don't have an office at home. Use the note cards instead of a notebook because it can be more fun. Maybe you're gonna play around with ideas and whatnot. Post little post-it notes on your wall, something like that. Ceiling, wall. Just try some different little things that are not the same thing you do all the time and that is not work related. It's gonna be hard for those of you who are new to this at first, but I promise you it will have an impact in a really positive way on your work life. So I have some homework for you to try. Write out what you'd like your life to look like with more play and rest in it. Really, what does that look like? Put all the senses in there, okay? What does it look like physically? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Maybe there's a smell like a sweet smell that goes with it, you know, because you're outside or you're with the flowers or who knows what. You're baking great food, you're cooking food. Write those things out. What does it look like on a daily basis, you know? On a daily basis, are you doing like Darwin, right? Are you taking 3 walks a day and eating 3 meals a day? Are you going on a hike for 2 hours at a time and then coming home and working? What are you doing? How long are you working? What does that look like in an ideal world, okay? If you're one of those people where this is not available for you to actually do right now, don't worry about it. Allow yourself to just dream, just for the hell of it, just because you can, just write it down, all right? Once you have that, ask this question to yourself and then answer it on paper. What might someone believe to have the experience of more play and rest in their life that leads to an increase in productivity? So I'm going to say that one more time. What might someone believe to have the experience of more play and rest in their life that leads to an increase in more productivity? That is a very difficult question to answer for a lot of people, and it's also a convoluted question, but do it anyway because you might be really surprised with the answer. Lastly, I'm gonna credit Michelle Masters to this. Michelle does what's called red flags in at least her Money Magic class. Check out Michelle below as well. When she says it's a red flag, if there's some alarm that goes off in your brain when you're writing this stuff out. So, as an example, there you are writing out what your daily life is going to look like when you have more rest and more play in it, right? And here you're writing out, you're taking 3 walks a day. And all of a sudden, as soon as you write that out, your brain is going, are you fucking kidding me? You can't take 3 walks. You have 57 and a half other things to do. And you're way behind on this, and this, and this. You have all this admin work to do. You have this, and this. Write it down. Just write it down. If you can write it down on a separate index card, you know, get your own index cards just for this, to just write it down. So you're acknowledging it, writing it down. If you want to go back to it later, you can, but just get it out and write it down. As a general recap, so we have rest and play. Alex Soojung-kim, God, I hope I got that right. And Stuart Brown, okay? Rest and play, both the books and the concepts, all right? And do the homework, all right? What would your life look like with more play? Ask the belief question that I have down below. So what might someone believe to have the experience of more play and rest, so on and so forth. And then write down any red flags, all right? If you do nothing else, write the answer to that question. I would do that actually more than I would implementing the 10 minutes of play, unless it's very easy for you to implement the 10 minutes of play. If your brain absolutely refuses to listen to any of this, if you can answer that one question, that belief question, that's the one you should do. That's all for me today. I hope you guys subscribe, enjoy this. Please leave me feedback on other videos you'd like to hear about, what you'd like me to talk about, what you're enjoying, what you don't enjoy, what you'd like to see more of, whatever it is. Leave the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to answer these questions below and you're brave enough to do that, go for it. I'd love to see that. Please share, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Boyfriend, very, very in love with you.
Okay. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Testes. Who's got the testes? I got the testes. She ain't got no testes. Nope. Confirm. No testes.
Say something.
Something.
Say something else.
What would you like me to say?
Your mom.
Your mom.
Your mom.
Your mom is wonderful. She's a sweet
I
lady.
think we might have
Let
to
me
sit
scratch my
closer.
lap. Why? What are you looking for?
I don't know, I'm just looking at stuff.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm thinking about when we do a
You think
video
you'll pick it up for me? Oh,
with the
God.
two of us. Alright, let's see.
Oh, yeah. Button.